We're trying to take a look at how the Suns can learn from some of the best and most surprising teams in the franchise's history. Unfortunately, despite all of our research, we could not find a way to put Charles Barkley on this team. Psychos and sickos unite for an old school edition of PHNX Suns, coming to you pre-recorded from downtown Phoenix. I'm Eric Ruby, that's Stephen Prejean Garner. We got the Juice Man, aka Freckle Mamba, aka Old Mangled Toes behind the Mac, making all of the magic happen. His name also happens to be Ayrton. We appreciate him. We appreciate all of you joining us here. I know we are live on PHNX Sports right now, so you can hit that like button. You can hit that subscribe button. You can rate 5-star reviews on audio, but just a reminder, since I am on vacation currently, this is a pre-recorded edition of the show. We'll have another pre-recorded edition for you tomorrow on Tuesday, and then we will be back live for a later show after Suns Media Day on Wednesday, which is going to be super exciting. We'll have all the live coverage for you on all of our socials, PHNX_Suns on Twitter and Instagram. We'll hear from every player, the coach, the GM, owner, everybody on Media Day on Wednesday, September 24th. Stephen, how are you doing today, and how do you think you're going to be doing when this is airing on Tuesday or on Monday? This one's Monday at 3.
I'm doing sensational today, and I'll be sensational on Tuesday.
That's just what I like to hear. Ayrton, how do you feel you'll be doing on Monday?
Man, so much can change come Monday. Let's hope for the best.
A lot can change in a week. Listen, we appreciate everybody being here and hanging out with us. Obviously, people are going to look at us, Stephen, and be like, what the hell are these guys doing talking about the 1975-76 Phoenix Suns? And you know what?
Paying our respects, first of all.
Yes, for paying our respects. Also, I do understand if you have that sentiment. Obviously, none of the three of us here were alive during that time, and there are going to be teams that we talk about today that we did not get to witness live. I do wish that we were live right now so we could talk with some of you that are, but feel free to let us know in the comments below whether you agree, disagree, have a different opinion on some of these teams that we're going to be talking about. We are going to spend a pretty heavily emphasized focus on the 2000s, the 2010s, and even that early 2020s era for the Phoenix Suns, since that is basketball that we were able to watch and take in, and we have some more deeper opinions and thoughts. But that doesn't mean that, by watching some tape, watching some film, reading, you can't learn from some of these Suns teams in the past. Stephen, for somebody who's just, watching, basketball now, or, isn't really getting into a lot of the older game, even the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, how much can you, just from an overarching perspective, take from those eras of basketball and apply to the modern NBA when it is universally considered a much different game?
A significant lot. A significant bit, if you will. You know what they were doing in like the 80s and the 90s?
Cocaine.
Also relevant. Very relevant if you've been listening to guys like Vernon Maxwell giving us that peek behind the curtain. Shout out to the OG. But no, they're running empty corner pick and rolls. They're running plays where guys are manipulating the dunker spot. Now, it might be happening at a slower pace. The tempo of action might be happening significantly slower. But the bones, the foundation of the way that the game has evolved into today's game, you're seeing a whole lot of those things going on. Look at the 90s Magic. Penny Hardaway Jr., Shaquille O'Neal. They're running empty side pick and rolls with just those two. You got Shaq rolling downhill. Naturally, he's going to get 3. And now that means Penny's got a great midi pull up, or someone like 3D is knocking down the 3 in the corner. Like, these things were happening prior to now. It's just, it's a lazy eye or people just not going to do the work that typically gets them to the conclusion that things just weren't happening back in the day when, in fact, they were 45 cuts, baseline cuts, those kind of Maggette, Dwayne Wade cuts on the baseline. Guys were doing those things. They might not have been as prominent in doing it, but they were doing those things back in the day.
Yeah, I also think that some people will just look at like, oh, well, the NBA, it's all threes now, right? But the game has slowly and steadily evolved. And sure, there are parts of the game from the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, the 2010s, even hell at this point, the early 2020s, that aren't as prevalent in today's game. But they kind of laid this foundation. And overarchingly, like, it is basketball, right? And I think one of the things that I want to talk about when we go really old school is this theme of resilience and this theme of kind of stepping up in the playoffs. So let's start with the 1975-1976 Phoenix Suns. Now, this is a team that I actually own a vinyl record of a recount of their season because they are the Cinderella Suns. Obviously, at the end of the season, the 1976 NBA Finals, it is one that goes down in infamy. It's the Phoenix Suns versus the Boston Celtics. In Game 5, it was a triple overtime thriller. Of course, Gar heard with the shot, heard around the world, the Suns on the poor end of that game. But how do you get there? Like, how do you get to that point? Why was this team so, A, well-renowned by the people who are around to see it, and B, still talked about to this day? Well, if you look at the regular season, Stephen, 42-40. Third in the Pacific Division. Now, fourth in the Western Conference, which gives you a little bit of an idea of what the Western Conference was like at the time. But 42-40 in the regular season. But they were able to, due to a lot of resiliency, and honestly, like they did have good talent, I think, led by, at that point, I believe it was rookie Alvin Adams, who was drafted 4th overall in the previous draft. But no, like, oh, wow, this is a guy from that era that I think universally NBA, fans or whatever will be like, oh, that was one of those guys. Obviously, Alvin Adams here is, one of those guys, but universally in the NBA, not really. This is a team that was resilient, and it was kind of a slow burn, and they had, I believe, just traded for Paul Westphal as well. That was trading Charlie Scott to the Boston Celtics, ironically enough, for Paul Westphal and a 1975 second-round pick. Now, the interesting thing with Westphal, and I'll draw a couple comparisons here with what the Suns did in Jalen Green and everything, is when Westphal was on the Celtics were a very successful team, and Westphal played a role, but when he was brought over to Phoenix, it was in exchange for a very good player, a more established player, and then 3-time All-Star Charlie Scott. Paul Westphal was given a lot bigger of an opportunity in Phoenix to be who he is, especially offensively, and we'll talk about it with some of these teams later. He became and flourished into a superstar here in Phoenix. It's not a direct one-to-one comparison, but it shows you that situations can help unlock some of these very talented guards, i.e. Jalen Green.
Correct. That's what it's all about. That's why I mentioned the context of fit and opportunity. Context-wise, Jalen Green with the Rockets was what it was. Wasn't the best, most conducive situation for him. Fit-wise, in terms of how he fit next to Şengün, you could see how that could work. It's not the most natural, but you could see how it worked. Opportunity-wise, he had the ball in his hands a lot. That was what it was. When those three things those boxes aren't checked off as thoroughly as they could potentially be with the Suns, it just looks a little different, and things kind of get blurred a little bit. To the point that you're bringing up, though, when you have that opportunity and you have a team that's kind of leaning more into those skills of a particular player, it's going to hit different. There's more of a runway. There's more of a clear runway without having these detours that you have to go through to get to the destination. And I think that all makes it just make a little bit more sense.
Now, and I will say this, because obviously when you look at, I think, the final product of Paul Westphal, and obviously like he's so well-renowned here, being also one of the most successful coaches in franchise history as well. When he played in Boston, this was not somebody that was, a star for them. So year one, he had played 3 years in Boston before being traded to Phoenix. 4.1 points per game and 8 minutes per game through 60 games in Boston in his age 22 season. 7.2 points per game in all 82 games in 1973-74. And then 9.8 points per game in all 82 games in 1974-75. So a good player, but by no means somebody who was as well renowned as Jalen Green as when he was coming into the league, right? So Jalen Green is coming with, I guess, more already proven despite a lot of his deficiencies than a Paul Westphal. This was certainly a gamble, but a comparison of trading Charlie Scott, who eventually got worse, was never selected to an All-Star game after being traded, but was a better player in exchange for a worse, at that time, younger player who was then able to thrive in your situation.
And you see the parallels. You see the ways in which why you're bringing up the situation you are in respect to the present day Phoenix Suns. There's opportunity there. There's a little bit of context there. Very interesting. We could be seeing history repeat itself. It tends to do that time after time.
Well, and that also draws me to the 1978-1979 Phoenix Suns. Now, there are going to be teams that we draw from that the expectations were much higher and were much better teams than what the Suns will be like this year. Like, I have notes from the 92-93 Suns team here. Obviously, one of the best teams in franchise history, probably one of two of the best teams in franchise history, because it was the second closest the Suns ever got to winning a championship. They won as many games in the finals, but they were never, up like the Suns were up 2-0 in 2020-2021, which we also have notes from as well. We have notes from the 7 seconds or less team as my computer goes off. My bad. Okay. But 1978-1979, this is the same thing that you look at Paul Westphal. Now, this is a team that won 50 games. It was the first time in franchise history that they had ended up winning 50 games. It's 50 and 32. That's second in the Pacific Division, third in the Western Conference. Once again, they made it to the conference finals. Last time in 1975-76, they made it to the finals. There's going to be a lot of teams that we talk about that made it to the conference finals. Alvin Adams just still absolutely being dominant, averaging 9.2 boards per game. Obviously, that's big time, but it's the backcourt, which is, again, where I'm going to draw this comparison. Now, I'm going to stop comparing Paul Westphal to Jalen Green, and I'm going to compare Paul Westphal to Devin Booker. So Westphal led the Suns with 24 points per game, which at that time was a lot, made his third straight appearance in the All-Star game, and he was also leading the team in assists per game as well. The offense ran through Paul Westphal, but he had a running mate. That running mate would eventually go on to be the franchise all-time leading scorer until a man named Devin Booker showed up. That would be Walter Davis, who's coming off of a Rookie of the Year campaign and was able to finally be selected for an All-Star game. Well, actually, no, that was the second consecutive season he was an All-Star selection. So this is Paul Westphal and Walter Davis, right? Paul Westphal, you look at a ball-dominant guard who's leading the team in scoring, who's a great shooter, but also a very improved playmaker in his time in Phoenix, i.e. Devin Booker. Then you have a young and clearly better than Jalen Green at this point in his career, considering the All-Star selections and everything, and obviously an overall better player than Jalen Green, but a young, very athletic, dynamic guard alongside him. Maybe you won't find that same success in the 50-win season, but if you're drawing comparisons to even maybe just a little bit of play style, Westphal and Davis and Booker and Green do fall into similar, if not perfect, comparable categories.
Yeah, you can see the overlap there. I would love to go back and watch that team play for a little bit just to see how they made the pieces fit together. Obviously, it's not going to be the exact same way, but just to see how it worked, because they got what they were looking for from that team in multiple capacities. So, and what I'm kind of getting at with that is you might not necessarily, with this situation, we see what the result was. It might not always make sense initially, but does that mean you should just detach yourself from it and just not believe in it, or just give it time to see how it looks? Some things that might not always make the most sense end up turning out to make all sense in the world.
Yeah.
I think a more current iteration that we saw where people were questioning it was when Chris Paul went to Houston with James Harden. And people were like, that's not going to work. Those two players, they play too similarly. They both need the ball. And they're just going to win like 64 games or something crazy like that at that point. You got to let things kind of play out. And if the buy-in is there, you can make any situation work with that.
Yeah. When we talk about the Suns overachieving in expectations this year, it all starts with Devin Booker. This team would need Devin Booker to play like Paul Westphal played that season, at least comparably. If you're not going to talk about stats, let's just talk about accomplishments. Westphal was a starter in the Western Conference All-Star game. It was his third consecutive All-Star game, second amongst Western Conference guards. With, at that point, this is funny comparing how many votes they get now, 250,000. which is just so funny because that's like one day of voting.
Mhm.
Walter Davis was a reserve. It was second consecutive All-Star game. Westfall was also named to the All-NBA first team, right? So he was one of the 5 best players in the
One of
NBA
those
that
guys.
season.
Yep.
Right? That is what the Suns would need Devin Booker to do to overachieve, let alone do what this team did, which is win 50 games. The team around them extremely solid as well, and I don't want to gloss over them.
That's different for sure.
Like Truck Robinson, which all-time name, averaged 16 points per game as well. I mean, Walter Davis was almost leading the team in scoring at 23.6. It was just Paul Westphal at 24. Alvin Adams was still putting up 17.8 points per game and 9.2 rebounds per game as well. All defensive team and Don Boos. Like they had guys around those two, but it was dynamic guards and then a dynamic big man as well, which is where you look at like a Mark Williams and say, obviously you're not going to be Alvin Adams because Alvin Adams was one of those guys for this team, but can you be dynamic enough around these two very explosive guards and have your one guard play like a first team all NBA level player?
Those are the demands right there. That's what we're getting at. You have to be able to get things out of certain guys that you might not necessarily always see from the forefront when you look at a roster just on paper. So you gotta let things kind of play out. Like, I know it's very basic analysis, wait and see essentially, but sometimes you really have to do that to really be able to gauge and assess things, because how many people have been wrong about certain rosters getting put together, certain players being together, and like, oh yeah, that's definitely gonna work, and they flame out, or they come up significantly short, and they happen in the other way around. It's kind of what happened with those Suns teams.
Yeah.
Coming up unexpectedly and ultimately getting close to knocking on the door of a finals appearance.
Yeah. Again, the Western Conference Finals, they lost in Game 7 to the Seattle Supersonics, which were overall in the regular season one of the few teams that were better than the Phoenix Suns. So that's a couple of the teams from the 70s. I got a team from the 80s that I find very fascinating and maybe has an interesting comparison to this year's team. Then we'll go to the 90s, the 2000s, 2010s. We're going to get into all of it. But we're going to do it all after our first break. You want to feel like you were transported back in time? Well, Zen Leaf Dispensaries is here for you to help you out with that. Whether it's flowers, vapes, edibles, or more, they have you covered with all their locations across the valley. Chandler, Gilbert, North Phoenix, and more. You can swing by before tip-off during the season, or you can order online and for express pickup post-workout. And so you just get a lift in and you want to go relax. Well, Zen Leaf can help you out with that. But I buried the lead for long enough. You can get 50% off of weed. Okay, that's the ad read. There you go. Now, 50% off of weed at Zen Leaf just for listening to us talk about 1970s basketball. Code ZENPHNX, that's ZENPHNX, gets you 50% off a one-time purchase for a limited time. Once again, 50% off weed, ZENPHNX, for a limited time, one-time purchase. Zen Leaf, great weed, great service every single time. And every single time I walk into a rally house, I wish that I was a millionaire, because I want to buy out the entire store, because it is chock full, literally to the brim, of every single piece of sports gear that you need as a Valley sports fan. Whether it's the brick and mortar locations in Tempe, Mesa, and Glendale, with Tempe being my personal favorite and my also first introduction to Rally House as well, or if it's online at rallyhouse.com, and there are hundreds of pages of merchandise that you can check out as well. They have you covered, especially for the most psychos and sickos out there. One of my biggest pet peeves with a lot of stores here locally is that they'll carry sports gear, but the Arizona sports teams are always either not in the forefront or not there at all. That makes me mad. That makes me upset. I've seen Crimson Tide. I've seen Lakers. I've seen Dodgers. I've seen Brooklyn Nets. I've seen Georgia Bulldogs. I've seen it all. But not a Rally House. It's just local teams. So find your local Rally House location, shop their entire product assortment online at www.rallyhouse.com today. We appreciate all of you joining us for a pre-recorded edition of the show. If you did send any super chats, I do apologize. We will not be able to get to those because we cannot look into the future. This is not That's So Raven. But what you can do is, if you already sent one, you could screenshot it and then DM it to us. Either you can DM me at ERIKRUBY or PHNX_Suns, and just let us know you sent it. We'll make sure it gets read on our next live show Wednesday night after Suns Media Day. Again, keep an eye out for that one. Going to be starting a little bit later than our normal 3 o'clock start time. Man, all these pre-records are really killing my voice. But hit that like button nonetheless. Hit that subscribe button nonetheless. Let's talk about a very, very interesting team. A forgotten team in Suns history. The 1983-1984 Suns team. I sent a little graphic that's on Basketball Reference for Ayrton to pull up because look at the point differential for this team. So this team was 41-41, led by Larry Nance, not Junior, the Larry Nance, who was just an absolute two-way menace. For those listening on audio, the old school way for the old school episode. Stephen, you want to describe what this graph looks like?
Down, down, up, down, down, up, down, up, down, down, up, 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 down, down, up, up, down, up, down, down. And
But like dramatically. Insane highs and lows.
Highs and lows. Like the extremist of the highs, like there's literally the green top points reaching the top, and there's the red points reaching the bottom of the bottom. Which speaks to how the differential in points they were winning in games and that they were losing in games.
Yeah, this team could not get it together in the regular season. One day it was clicking, one day it wasn't.
And then at the end of the regular season, all of a sudden it's just green.
Yeah. Well, and you can see they kind of get it together a little bit at the end, but still, they ended the season 41-41, right? Their points per game.
Herculean efforts to get to that 41
For
and 41.
Real. Points per game is 111 points per game. Points allowed per game is 110.1. So literally,
stop it.
Less than a point differential with this graph is insane.
But for the scoring purposes,
yeah,
for those that don't pay attention or weren't alive to live through old school basketball, what were those averages one more time?
111 points per game, which, mind you, just some historical context, that year in the league, that was the 8th best team in the league. There were 7 other teams in 1983-84, which is one of the faster paces in basketball history. There were 7 other teams who scored more than 111 points per game. And this team was 41-41 and was top 10 in points per game.
And what season was this again?
This was 83-84.
So we're just a couple of years into the three-point line era, which was introduced in 79-80.
And they were not taking lots of threes.
They weren't taking a lot, and they were scoring that many points.
Yeah.
It's not like the pace of play was that high either as far as the possessions per game.
Do you want to know how many threes per game they were attempting?
About 7. Probably less than that.
Totally. For the entire season, they shot 291 threes. That is 3.5 threes per game. Do you want to know where that ranked in the league that year?
That was like top 5.
Second.
Yep.
3.5 three-pointers per game was second in the league, and they were averaging 111 points per game. Now, one of the lessons you could take from this team is the fact that this team is going to have to shoot a lot of threes to make up for some of the talent discrepancy when they play some of the best teams in the Western Conference. And you could tell when you look at that graph of the ups and downs, you can tell when their three ball wasn't falling, right? It was the games that they get blown out. That's going to be an identity this team has to lean into, Steve. And if we're going to talk about one of the better teams, not only do they have to take a lot of threes, they're going to have to make a lot of them as well.
Yeah, and that's why I err less on the volume. You have to play the math game in today's NBA for sure, but it's more so about what's the process into those threes and are you making and taking good quality ones. I think that's the other big part of it. But to the historical part of it all, you mentioned that they were number 2 in terms of threes taken a game.
Yeah, at 3.5.
At 3.5. The important part with that is though the shots weren't being taken on volume, players were occupying spots, which opened up opportunity in the paint. The paint was king in the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s, even some of the mid-2000s, depending on what teams you were looking at. Spacing was still a thing, and especially once the three-point line was introduced, people looked to occupy that space to open things up. That's what was going on with that Suns team, all of the teams in that era.
Now, I mentioned Larry Nance is one of the leaders on that team. Walter Davis is in his age 29 season. This is the prime for Walter Davis as well. He needs to be mentioned. He's at 26.4 points per game in this first round of the playoffs, which, by the way, playoffs. They're 41-41. This team made it to the conference finals, folks.
At 500.
At 500, they made it to the conference finals on the back of an elite all-time shooting guard in Walter Davis. You have Larry Nance, who's in his age 24 season, who's averaging 16 points per game and is just absolutely dominating as well with 8 rebounds per game as well, 2 blocks per game, and a steal per game. You don't have any big man that's going to be like Larry Nance on this team, so that's going to be a hard comparison. Paul Westphal is in his age 33 season, but he's not somebody who's making a huge contribution to this team. This is the first round of the playoffs, actually. 8.6 points per game. I can look at the whole season, but what I'm just saying is when you get to the playoffs, on the back of Walter Davis, on the back of Larry Nance, and some veteran leadership as well, this was a team that beat the Portland Trailblazers in the first round, beat the Utah Jazz in the conference semifinals, and then lost in the conference finals to the Lakers, of course, the Showtime Lakers in 83-84. But this is a team that was 41-41, man. Like, the only all-star on the roster was Walter Davis, who was averaging 20 points per game. Larry Nance didn't even make an all-star game. He was top 10 DPOY voting. That was the only other accomplishment that was given this season. Right? You have Maurice Lucas, who was actually one of the more underrated players in NBA history. He was really good as well, averaging 15.9 points per game. I mean, you had a good balance of bigs and guards as well. Alvin Adams still on this team, but averaging under 10 points per game at this point as well. Paul Westphal still under 10 points per game at 7, too. But, like, you have the veteran leadership mixed with some of the young guys. I think the only true comparison that you can bring to this team, Stephen, is that this might be a team that loses some ugly games, that ends up about 500 or a little bit below. But if they could sneak into the playoffs, that top-end talent, the Walter Davis, Devin Booker comparison might be enough to power them to a playoff run.
It is. And I think to the point that you're making, especially there's injury issues with that team as well, right, throughout the regular season?
I believe so. Let me look at how many games played. So in the regular season, Larry Nance did play 82 of 82. Walter Davis played 78 of 82 and started 70 of those. Honestly, no, not crazy injuries. Kyle Macy played 82. Maurice Lucas played 75. Alvin Adams played 70. Not crazy. The lowest number of games played was Johnny High, which is just such a great name. He played 29 games, started 9 of them, but only averaged 1.6 points per game.
Okay.
So, nothing crazy.
Okay. But the overarching point still being there with the wait and see dynamic. Like, I hate to sound like a broken record with it, but some teams just have to figure it out throughout the season. And you figure it out and it hits. I think at the end of that season, it looked like they won 5 or 6 games in a row or something like that. Yeah,
they 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games in the row at the end of the season. And honestly, post All-Star break, if you want to throw this win-loss graphic back up, again, just to kind of paint a picture, you look at the highs and the lows of it as well, and you saw flashes from this team. But this team started off pretty damn poorly. There's a lot more red at the start of the season. Once you get to the end of December, you start seeing a little bit more green, and then a really tough red stretch, and then another green stretch, and then post All-Star break, it's a lot more green. That's realistically, if this team is surprising, what you're going to see this season is flashes, right? Because you saw flashes at the beginning of the season, right? Oh, a huge win over San Antonio, 142-120 for really your first win of the season, which is hilarious. You see the flashes, but overall they're losing more games. Then as the season goes on, they're still losing games pretty handedly. They're just losing less of them. And then by the end of the regular season, they win 6 games. In a row, they end 41-41, and you enter the postseason with a little bit of momentum. Yep. That's what this team would have to do if they are going to surprise.
This is what, I don't know if the highs are the highs and the lows of lows will look the same, but the Suns might look a lot like this if we're looking at what their season is going to look like. I mean, we did the month-by-month projections.
Yeah.
Some of those months it's going to be hard to come across with 2 or 3 wins, which means there's going to be a lot of red. It might not be the steepest of reds as far as the length in terms of point differential, but might be a lot of red streaks in there.
I think we're definitely going to see some really, really low lows this season. I think we're also going to see some really high highs. Now, ironically enough, this is the 1983-84 season is 41-41. The season before, the Suns were 53-29, right? They were really good, but they lost in the first round to the Denver Nuggets, right? And this is a team that, and we're not going to pull the graphic up because I don't have it, but there's a lot more green and a lot more big green margins there. They had Walter Davis. They had Alvin Adams, right? They had Dennis Johnson, who was a dog. They had Larry Nance. they didn't have Paul Westphal. Paul Westphal had left the team at that time. He came back the next year to end his career with the Suns. I believe it was that year he ended his career with the Suns. But you're following up a really good team, and then the team was pretty disappointing in the regular season and then got it together. That's a little bit different as far as expectations go going into this season. You're following up one of the more disappointing teams in Suns history. Yeah. So just to give a little context.
The floor for them, so they got the creative freedom to do everything they want.
But that was a team that was rooted in defense. They only allowed 102 points per game, which was top 3 in the NBA, but they only scored 107, right? So they really leaned into an offensive identity that year as well. What about the 92-93 Suns? What about the 7 seconds or less Suns? I know that's what most of you want to hear, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about right after our second break. Listen, it's almost that time of the year. The NBA season is just around the corner, and it's the perfect time to get in with Bet365 because whatever the moment, it's never ordinary. With Bet365, of course, we'll have our betting pregame shenanigans per usual, but it's not just with the NBA. They also have a ton of stuff going on with the NFL. Like Thursday Night Football, they have a $10 safety net bet. Sunday Night Football, they have a $365,000 jackpot. All you have to do is place a $10 bet on first touchdown score and get a split of $365,000 of bonus bets if your player scores the first touchdown of the game, and it's payable regardless of if their first touchdown score bet wins or loses. So it's called the Sunday Night Jackpot. Get in on that. They also have a 50% super profit boost token on same game parlays for Monday Night Football. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. And right now, customers get $200 in bonus bets when you bet $5. Win or lose, sign up, use code PHNX365, deposit 10, place a bet for $5, and get $200 in bonus bets if your bet wins or loses. That can be used on spreads, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 plus and physically located in Arizona. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, text NEXT STEP to 53342, or visit problemgambling.az.gov. That wasn't sped up, by the way. That was just how fast I can talk. I'm fueled by Circle K. Maybe got a little caffeine from Circle K as well. Maybe just a little bit. Listen, I love Circle K. I love being a member of the Inner Circle because it saves me money and I ain't got to pay a damn thing to be in it. All I had to do was download the Circle K app. I put in my phone number. I put in my email. And years ago, I started saving money at Circle K. You can get a 79-cent Polar Pop, a 99-cent Froster, 3 for $5 Gatorade, 28 ounces. I know the Juice Man loves that. He's always drinking his Gatorades. And you can also save money on gas as well, whether it's the Inner Circle Fuel Days that pop up every once in a while where you can get up to 40 cents off per gallon or just your 3 to 5 cents off per gallon, depending on how often you use your Inner Circle membership on every single fill-up, plus 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. Join Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for more details. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as we talk about one of, if not the greatest team in Phoenix Suns history. That is the 92-93 Phoenix Suns, obviously losing in the NBA Finals to Michael Jordan and company. A heartbreaking end of the season to a team that was, by the odds makers, predicted to win the NBA Finals, a team that was already good before trading for Charles Barkley, but then fleeced the Philadelphia 76ers in one of the most lopsided trades in NBA history. This is a team where there's not a lot in common between this team and the 1992-93 team, but is there anything from what they brought to the table that you feel like the 2025-26 Suns can try to emulate?
Not too much from me. This is a little bit more of a pick for you, and I'm curious to hear you dive into it. But just looking at it, brand new coach.
Yep.
And one of the franchise's all-time greats in Paul Westphal. How cool is that? Obviously, you have Charles Barkley. You have a ton of other pieces around Charles. You lean into the offensive side of things, especially with Charles. And we know what he did. We know what he didn't do on the court. There's a template to be had there. It's still a little bit different in terms of the pace of the play. So you have to speak carefully when comparing eras this far in between each other. But I think with having Charles at the helm, there's a little bit of Devin Booker. There's a little bit of Charles and Devin Booker as far as that goes.
Yeah, obviously not in like play style,
No,
but as
definitely
far as
not in
like
play style, but
being good. But I mean, this is an MVP year from Charles Barkley, right?
Yep.
Like this is a peak that Devin Booker has never reached individually as a player.
been close, but hasn't quite got there.
He hasn't quite got there. Very few players have ever gotten to the
Correct.
peak of Charles Barkley in the early 90s. So I think Paul Westphal is an interesting point where he was a first-year head coach and he was really able to establish some magic. I think one of the really great things about how Paul Westphal coached this team was that, and this is a big difference in rosters, but this roster was ungodly levels of talented. I mean, this team was really good before Charles Barkley showed up. Like, I think you could have talked yourself into saying, we don't need Charles Barkley. We're winning 50 games. Like, we don't need to add this guy, right? But they did, and they end up being the number one team in the Western Conference. I believe they won over 60 games that season. They were 62-20. And what Paul Westphal did was he reined in Barkley, who obviously was a wild guy, especially at the time. But he also allowed his team and Barkley specifically like this freedom to be themselves. Like he had an offensive identity. They had an identity in general. But this was a team that was given a lot of leeway when it came to coaching. Now, I think it's interesting because, Jordan Ott's going to be a very technical guy, at least we assume. But you also have to give your players a certain level of freedom and let them feel a certain level of freedom as well. And if you can do that with your top-end talent and everybody's bought in, which this team was, I think that's probably the number one thing that you can take. I mean, this is a team that was number one in points per game in the NBA at 113.4 points per game in the early 90s, which is very impressive. Top 5 in net rating with a plus 6.7. I mean, this was a truly dominant team. One of the mixes that made them so dominant was this West Coast flash, this West Coast flair, this high-scoring, high-octane offense, with a Dan Marley, with a Tom Chambers, with a Kevin Johnson, right? With a Danny Ainge, with a Cedric Ceballos. But then you add in Charles Barkley, which is this East Coast grit. And it was this balance of high-octane, flashy, big-time offense with we're going to bully the crap out of you. And we know the Suns team's going to buy into that bullying identity, but can they tap into that high-octane offense as well?
I think they can. That's a good transition point. I know we're not done speaking on the 92-93 team, but there's some creativity there that you bring up to make all of those offensive pieces fit, but also still have your top dog be who he is. That's a fine line to have to kind of, if you're painting a picture, have to stroke as a coach. But when you do it, you see the benefits of it. And I don't think how much did Charles average that season?
Brother, he was the MVP. He was so good.
Yeah.
Let me
double checking now.
He was averaging. Sorry, I think it was close to like 25.6. Yeah, 25.6 points per game, 12.2 rebounds per game, 5.1 assists per game, 1.6 steals, 1 block, and only 2.6 personal fouls per game in 37 minutes, played 76 and started all 76. All NBA first team, all-star, and of course the MVP of the league.
So in terms of Devin Booker, that 25.6 would need to be around 30.
Yep.
That 12.2 rebounds would need to triculate into assists.
Yeah, probably close to double-digit assists.
Correct. You see what I'm getting at with that. And I still think he can get 5 rebounds if you just flip Charles' assists with
the
rebounds for Devin Booker.
Yeah.
That's the space he would have to be operating in. I think the ball would be in his hands in a creative amount of different ways to put him in that position.
Yeah.
Issue is, though, he doesn't have those offensive talents around him that Charles did that gave Charles the space to be that great player on the block and on the mid-post that he was.
I mean, genuinely speaking, and I know people will be Suns biased, this is one of the single most talented teams that have ever played in the NBA. You have Dan Marley, who was top 5 DPOY, all-star, all-defense second team, who was also averaging 17 points per game, 4.7 rebounds, and 3.8 assists. Again, this is a guy who was one of the best defenders in the NBA at the shooting guard position, played all 82 games, and led the teams in three-pointers made by over double what most people were shooting. Like the second was Danny Ainge at 1.9. He came off the bench. He was second in 6th man of the year voting, right? He was an absolute shooter. Other than that, there's not another player that averaged over 1 3 per game. Danny Ainge was 1.9. Dan Marley was 2 3-pointers per game on 5.3 attempts, shot 38% from deep. Again, this is your defensive stalwart on the perimeter. Kevin Johnson, was an incredible point guard. Now, he did deal with some injuries. He only played 49 games that season, but he averaged 16.1 points per game. Richard Dumas, this was when Richard Dumas was really cooking at 15.8 points per game. Danny Ainge, 11.8 off the bench. Tom Chambers, 12.2 points per game off the bench. Cedric Ceballos, coming off the bench for half of the season, averaged 12.8 points per game as well at the small forward position. You had a big man down low in Mark West, who was just a really, really, really solid big man. Obviously, Tim Kempton was on that team. People know Tim Kempton now from his radio days. This was a team. Oliver Miller of fame as well. Rest in peace, I believe, Oliver Miller. I hope I didn't get that wrong, but I do feel like Oliver Miller did actually recently pass away. He did recently, earlier this year. So rest in peace to Oliver Miller. This was one of the most talented teams that the Suns have ever had. This is one of the most talented teams in NBA history. So I don't think there's a lot of comparisons there. Now we're going to go talk about another extremely talented team. Let's just jump ahead to that 7 seconds or less team. Obviously, you look at the 2004-2005 season, but there's a whole stretch in the 2000s there that you're led by Steve Nash, Amari Stoudemire, Sean Marion, and this idea that basically established the modern philosophy of basketball, right? And fast-paced, high-octane shooting and put the pressure on you on the offensive end. I know, Stephen, this was the era that you were the most excited to talk about.
Yeah, so for me, you start with the context. So Mike D'Antoni takes over later end of the season prior to 2004-2005. Going into 2004-2005, he has the full reins. It's his team. Conversation-wise, the Colangelos come to Mike D'Antoni, brand new coach, thinks outside the box, and they tell him, hey, got this player, Devin Booker, Steve Nash, Jordan Knott.
Yeah.
You have that context of it. And they tell him, hey, you do whatever you need to do to get the absolute most out of this team. You give a good painter creative freedom. They typically create masterpieces. Brian Gregory, brand new to the general manager role with the Suns. Obviously, Jordan Knott, a first-time head coach. Jordan Knott, lauded as a person that thinks outside the box and continues to reinvent things along the way. That's what Mike D'Antoni did. He was given creative freedom to take as many risks as he wanted to. One of the major risks, moving Sean Marion to the 4, moving Amari Stoudemire to the 5. On top of shifting the way that they approach the offensive end of the floor. I imagine that Jordan Knott is going to have a lot of kinship with the ways in which Mike D'Antoni envisioned the roster that he ultimately took in for the 2004-2005 season. That's a team that everybody said, this is not going to work. There is no way this is sustainable. And then they just go and rip off 62 games and then make it to the conference. And then, so it went from, it's not going to work. This is only going to work in the regular season. It's not going to get you to the finals. Only one of those things was right because they made it all the way to the conference finals and won 62 games en route.
Dude, do you know where the Suns ranked in the league in points per game?
They were first.
They were first, 110.4 points per game. Do you know where they ranked in points allowed?
They were like 26th.
Nope.
30?
30.
Okay. I know they were bottom third.
The 2004-2005 Phoenix Suns allowed 103.3 points per game, which is the worst in the league. Now, again, obviously 30 out of 30 sounds bad. Take it into context. Think about these numbers again. 103.3 points per game was the worst average in the league. This team was scoring 110 points per game. They were first in pace. First in offensive rating. Now, defensive rating, not just points allowed, but defensive rating, they were about middle of the pack. They were 17th in defensive rating and second in net rating.
For sure. They allowed so many points because they played so fast.
Right. And that's the pacing.
Teams can't keep up with them.
Teams can't keep up with them. This was an incredibly talented team. Obviously, Nash, Amari, Sean Marion, those are going to be the guys that you look at the most, but also Quentin Richardson. You have Leandro Barbosa, you have Jim Jackson, Joe Johnson. You have guys on this team. Hell, you got Yuta Tabusi, which Espo loved confusing him with Yuta Watanabe at the beginning of a couple of seasons ago. This is a team that I think what you take from this is not necessarily the identity that they leaned into, but the fact that they leaned into an identity and they played towards their strengths, right? That's what this team is going to need to do in order to be successful. I don't think there's a world where they make the conference finals, hopefully, but probably not. But they need to, whatever their identity is, whether it's the grittiness, the rebounding, right? If it is the fast pace of play, which I do believe will be something that they go with, if it's just based off of athleticism and grittiness, whatever that identity is, they need to go 110% into that identity and see what they can get out of that return.
Yep, that's part of it for sure. I start with the coaching comparison though, because Mike D'Antoni and Jordan Knott have a lot of similarities as far as the timing with which they're coming to the team, the top end player, the best player, the kind of engine for the offense that they're inheriting, the point in their careers that they're both at. Steve Nash this was his age 30 season. Devin Booker is 29, 28.
Yeah, he's going to be 29 this season.
Going to be 29 this season in October. Yes. So, I mean, there's a lot of comparisons to be made and to be drawn from there. Similarly, look at all the wings that were on this team. Sean Marion, Joe Johnson, Jim Jackson. Those three in particular.
Yeah. I mean, that's a crazy trio of wings.
And you look at what the Suns have. Obviously, none of the wings that the Suns have are those guys. But the ways in which Devin Booker can put them in position based off of the ways that Jordan Ott wants to play and the positions he's going to put guys in, and if he's given that creative freedom to try things, you have a coach that is always thinking the game through and steps ahead of opponents. You don't want to put that person in the box because that next step that they're willing to go to that other people just haven't thought of or aren't ready to get to yet because they might not be able to based off of the upper management not suggesting it, that's an advantage for you.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that this iteration can lean into more than anything that is the specific players on the roster. It's that head coach to front office relationship and the creative freedom to do whatever he feels he needs to do to get this team to be its best self.
And I think another example of that is 2008, 2009, but on the opposite end, because that's when Terry Porter was coaching this team.
Yep.
Right. And so 46 and 36, which is like fine, right? Like it's okay. But it's a defensive head coach who's fit for an offensive roster. Then you go to the next year, 2009, 2010. Alvin Gentry is your head coach there. 54 and 28, second in the NBA in the Pacific Division. I mean, and you're back to, okay, what got us right, which was our offense, which was 110 points per game, again, which is first in the NBA. What do you remember from that 2009-2010 team? Because that's Steve Nash, that's Amari, that's Grant Hill, right? Like, it's Goran Dragic. You have almost like this isn't like a roster that you would look at and be like, wow, this is one of the best teams in the NBA. But obviously Steve Nash was still absolutely cooking. Channing Frye, Jared Dudley, those are of course role players that people actually loved. Leandro Barbosa, right? This is a team that I think a lot of people look at with a lot of fondness. What is it from that team that you feel like might be a little bit of a different separator from the 2004-2005-ish era about a half a decade later?
Yeah, for me with that team, I'm looking directly at Steve Nash. Steve could not score as much on the initial iteration of 7 seconds or less because he had a Joe Johnson, a Sean Marion, and a Amari Stoudemire. They could all score and most of them score on their own will at times, but naturally pick and roll was the steady diet of offense, the main context that they spend time in offensively. That naturally set the table for them to score more easily. But with Steve Nash that season with Alvin Gentry, and what was that 2009-10 we're talking about?
Yeah, 9-10.
He had to score more. He had to put up more attempts, and was still didn't see any of his playmaking impact drop off in terms of that goes. They still averaged 11 assists, led the league in assists.
Crazy.
Got to the free throw line a little bit more.
93.8% from the line.
It's insane. Just insane.
In his age 35 season. His age 35
that's
season.
That's what I'm getting
at.
He's getting older. You're putting more demands on him because the team has shifted. You don't have a ISO Joe on your roster anymore.
Yeah.
Things are different around, but the the foundation pieces are the same. Him and Amari Stoudemire.
And this is one of Amari's better years in the NBA. Not his first team All-NBA year, which was his best year, but this was second team All-NBA All-Star, top 10 MVP, averaging 23 points per game, 8.9 rebounds per game, and a block per game as well, playing all 82, which is just nuts. Steve Nash, by the way, his age 35 season, played 81 games that year as well. But there was just a lot of depth on this team as well. I mean, go all the way down to Lou Amundsen, who we talked about in a show recently.
The other shift there is Channing Frye coming into the fold.
Channing Frye having a shooting big.
Yep.
Jared
now
Dudley
isn't at the 5 anymore. Yep. So the spacing template is similar, but they just reconfigure things.
And that was also like Jason Richardson had a really, really good season as well in his age 29 year, 15.7 points per game.
Shout out Sparty.
Yeah, 5 rebounds per game. I know you like that. We've got a couple more teams that we'll talk about here, a surprise team and another one of the greatest teams in franchise history. And then we're going to wrap things up here on a pre-recorded edition of PHNX Suns, but we're going to do it after this break. All Pro Shade Concepts is the place to go to extend your outdoor living space with a custom fit awning. But you might ask yourself, well, why do I want a custom fit awning for my outdoor living space? Well, you can stay up to 20 degrees cooler in the shade during the summer, which means 110 and sunny turns into 90 and shady, which is just a massive difference. Plus, in the winters, it helps keep the warm air in and the cool air out, so it also extends your outdoor living space when it gets a little cooler here in the desert, which isn't talked about as much, but it does get kind of chilly. Plus, they're the most trusted local shade company, voted #1 by Ranking Arizona for patio shades in 2024, an A+ Better Business Bureau rating, and over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google. And they're not just some new company. They've been around for over 20 years in the Valley. Licensed, bonded, and insured. Call 623-204-1476. That's 623-204-1476, or visit allproshadeconcepts.com right now to schedule your free estimate. Also, not everything is free, like that estimate. A lot of things cost money, and when you have to spend money, well, you need a place to put it. That's where Mountain America Credit Union comes into play, the exclusive home of the Suns card and the official credit union of your Phoenix Suns. Available as both a debit and a credit card. If you do get the debit card, you can get the My Style checking account with restaurant deals, mobile phone protection, telehealth access, identity protection, loan rate discounts, offer on travel and events, and so much more. Or you can go with the credit card, which is a no annual fee credit card, available as low rate cashback or a reward card option. They're here to guide you through your financial journey. You can go get your Suns card today. They have wonderful customer service, great people who are there just to talk through any questions and problems that you might have. You can apply at any Arizona branch. Visit macu.com/suns to learn more and make My Style your lifestyle. Mountain America Credit Union, insured by NCUA. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply. Loans are on approved credit. Big shout out to everybody who is joining us live in the chat for this pre-recorded edition of the show. We will be back live on Wednesday for a post-media day show. Super excited for that one, but maybe not as excited as I was, Stephen, for one of the biggest surprises in Phoenix Suns history. One of my favorite teams of all time, the 2013-2014 Phoenix Suns. Now, this is a team that did not make the playoffs despite winning 48 games, but of course, Suns fans that were watching around then know it as the Gerald Green year. No, I mean, obviously, yes, Gerald Green was there. But Goran Dragic, Eric Bledsoe, those were your two guards that were really leading the way there. You had the Morris twins. You had a recently drafted Alex Len, Channing Frye still on the team as well. Leandro Barbosa still on the team. Miles Plumlee, Ish Smith, PJ Tucker. And then, yes, you do have a Gerald Green as well. This is one of the single most surprising teams in Phoenix Suns history. And I think what they need to take from them, Stephen, and this is something Espo and I talked about, is that don't give an F mentality, right? Because when you are not supposed to be great on a night in, night out basis, sometimes that can get to you. But this was an insane season from Goran Dragic, who was the most improved player, who was all NBA third team. An insane season from PJ Tucker. An insane season from Eric Bledsoe. An insane season from Markieff Morris, who was top 5, 6 man of the year. Gerald Green averaged 15.8 points per game. It's that I don't give an F. I'm going to show up and I'm going to play better than expected and shock the league. This is maybe the most realistic type of outcome and scenario as far as copy paste for the Suns this year versus then.
I think the fact that Janet Fry is still here with the team.
And by the way, averaging 11 points per game.
11 points, shooting 37% on 5.3 attempts from deep.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty cool. I agree. It's the mindset. No one was expecting this team to do much of anything. If I remember correctly, maybe it was the last preseason game where teams are playing their starters and trying to get like a good run in before the actual regular season starts, or it might have been like one of the first 2 or 3 regular season games. They're going up against the Clippers team with Chris Paul and everybody that was on those Clippers teams, and they're giving them some serious run. Off the strength of everything that is Goran Dragic and just getting downhill, getting to the paint at will, pick and roll, isolation, transition, it doesn't matter. That's the kind of edge that you want your team to be playing with. You have these top-end pieces, Eric Bledsoe getting buckets, doing all of the mini LeBron nicknamed athletic stuff that he was doing those years.
Crazy.
Ridiculous. Chase down blocks at 6'3". Like, what
Dude,
are you doing?
Nuts.
What are you doing?
He was nuts. Dude, that knee injury was so tragic, man.
Yeah.
Because he was one of the more exciting guards, him and Dragic.
Yes.
I mean, also another thing is like the overlap there, right? I think there was a lot of concern about having 2 guards that played a similar position, and they found a way to coexist through their different play styles. One more of a skill finesse guy in Goran Dragic, more of a shooter, and another one is a more athletic, clearly a different type of athleticism than Jalen Green, who is very wiry, and Bledsoe got the name Mini LeBron from the build. But two point guards that played different games that found a way to coexist.
Yeah, and that's the players buying into wanting to find a way to coexist for the betterment of the team as well as their individual play, but also a coach that's being allowed to put them in that position to get the most out of them. It takes buy-in from all 3 pieces. It can't be just 1 or 2/3 of that. It's got to be all 3 of them and be kind of a faction in and of itself. I believe those are the conversations that are going to be already being had actually by Jordan Knott, Devin Booker, and Jalen Green right now.
Well, you mentioned coaches. This was Jeff Hornacek's first year as a head coach. He was top 2. He finished second in NBA Coach of the Year voting. By the way, all-time 3 nickname lineup for Jeff Hornacek on Basketball Reference. Do we want to guess the 3 nicknames?
I do not.
Horny.
That's crazy.
Scarecrow.
That's even insane.
And the Paperboy.
That's wild.
Maybe the most elite 3 nickname run on Basketball Reference.
Shout out to people at Basketball Reference.
Shout out Horny.
That first nickname was crazy.
But this was a coach in his first year going in and establishing identity, overlapping guard play. And another thing is you're going to have some people that take the league by surprise and step up. Gerald Green averaging 15.8 points per game. That was 3rd on the team beside Bledsoe and Dragic. That was a massive surprise for everybody. I mean, that's the best year of Gerald Green's career. And he came out of nowhere. He only started half the games, or a little over half. He started 48 out of 82 games, but he played all 82, and he averaged 15.8 points per game. Miles Plumlee as a backup center was as solid as you can get from a backup center, right? You have, veteran Leandro Barbosa at 31 years old, still putting up 7.5 points per game. Like, you really had a ton of people who overachieved due to expectations. I mean, PJ Tucker averaged 9.4 points per game and played 81 games in his age 28 season, right? That is what you need. You're going to need somebody. I don't know who it is, but you're going to need somebody to shock the world. And speaking of shocking, we got another team to get, unless you have something else on this team.
Yes. So the Gerald Green point.
Yes, please.
So leaning into, it's not apples to apples, or however people want to make that phrase and saying that comparison. But I talked about Jordan not coming in and likely shifting things in terms of the approach to the game for Gerald Green. I wish he was on this team.
Me too.
For Jalen Green.
Wish he was on every team.
Hornacek comes in, it gives Gerald Green the green light from deep. Do you know where he ranked in terms of 3-point attempts total?
Him specifically? Top 5.
Specifically. Number 5.
I know my Gerald Green ball.
Steph Curry, number 1, 615 attempts, 78 games played. Number 2, Damian Lillard, 82 games played, 554. Number 3, Klay Thompson, 535. Number 4, Wesley Matthews. Shout out Marquette, 511. Number 5, 82 games played, 510 attempts from Gerald Green.
48 games off the bench, averaged under 30 minutes per game. Got 12.3 field goals attempts up in 28 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
What a guy.
That's insane.
My guy, man.
That is insane.
My guy.
Yeah.
By the way, we're going to keep it going here, but I want to remind everybody who's watching on TV that the party always does continue over at gophnx.com. It's time for overtime. It's time for you to hit the like button, subscribe button, become a member today. Spam some fresh new emojis in chat. Thank you for listening on audio as well. This might be one of the best, audio-focused episodes that we've done.
Mm-hmm.
So we really do appreciate our audio audience. Anything on this one before? I think we've got like 2 more teams that we should touch on.
Oh,
okay.
Just wanted to point that out in relation to Jalen Green,
Gerald Green,
and how Jalen
Green family
is likely to be challenged to evolve under Jordan Knott's tutelage.
What about the Bubble Suns? A team that had very low expectations, that very much struggled at the beginning of the season, and then given this opportunity, obviously I don't think they're going to be another bubble this year, but given this opportunity at the end of the season, they really did come together. Do you see any similarities between how that team was viewed and how this team is viewed?
A little bit. You got Devin Booker at the helm of it all, obviously. He had to grow a lot that season. Now, his growth in this season isn't going to need to be as steep as it was that year because that was his claim to fame. That's how he became this player that he's been the last 6 years now. What's unique about it, though, that I still think is similar for him is that he's going to be challenged to be different. The Booker that pre-existed prior to 2020 would not have got it done for them in 2020, which led to Chris Paul coming around, et cetera, et cetera. It might take another one of those type of coming on the scene type of moments. He's already been there, obviously, but one of those type of moments where he thrusts his name back into that top 10 conversation. And that then comes with an opportunity or another player choosing to come and play with Phoenix.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's kind of the thing, right? Where this was a young team full of vibes, right? Mm-hmm. You have a young big man in DeAndre, and you have your young wings in Mikal and Cam. You have, your young guard in Devin Booker, and then you have some vets to go along with it, your Ricky Rubios of the world and so on. But this was a stage setting season. And that probably best case scenario is what this season is for the Suns, right? Is a stage setting season. I mean, by the end of the season, again, under Monty Williams, I believe Monty Williams' first season as coach, 34-39.
Mm-hmm.
If I told you how we all felt at the end of that season that the team was 34-39, you'd think you're a little bit ridiculous, right? This is a team that set the stage for the ascension into contention, bars.
Yep.
And that is what the team upcoming could do. And finally, of course, we got to talk about that 2020-2021 team, which then was the contender, right? That was the logical next step. Anything from that team that you feel like this team can pull from?
Yeah, the element of surprise again. Being counted out. People said, okay, cool, Chris Paul went there. That team won 34 games the season prior. It's not going to matter that much. You just go and basically shock the world. Take down the reigning champs, first of all, with all the odds stacked against you in that. Oh, the Suns made it. That's cute. Lakers in 5.
Yeah.
I'll give them 1. Chris Paul probably leads them to 1. Devin Booker might score 45. Probably just one time. Lakers in 4. And the series starts the way it does.
I was in the building.
Yeah.
In the building for that game.
Yeah. All the nonsense going on, and they ended up doing what they did. They won in 6, right. Who got the last laugh? Devin Booker with a crazy, historic first closeout game on the road in Staples Center of all places.
And the first time that he broke, I think, 7 threes in a game.
Yeah.
It was either 7 or 8, whatever number
whatever
he could
the
never
number
get.
was. I think it was 7.
Yeah, he was always at 6. And then, of course, the first time he does that, I remember screaming at a friend's TV, step on their neck when he was shooting those threes. And I remember the loudest I've ever been in an arena was game 1, and the quietest I've ever been was game 1 against the Lakers when Chris Paul went down. But yeah, I mean, there was a special energy around that team. The element of surprise, but also they were just a really damn good team as well.
And being met with no's at every single step in the right direction. Win streak in the middle of the series or middle of the season or late in that season, that's cool, man. It's not gonna mean that much. and everything just being met with some resistance from the other side. You just got to drown out the noise. It's very cliche to say, but that was a team that was headstrong mentally. They don't get to the finals. They don't get to within 2 games of winning it all in their very first season together.
Yeah.
Without being headstrong in that capacity. Starts with coaching, strong-minded players, role players buying in, and everything clicks.
Let us know what you think. Did we miss a team? Are there any other lessons that you believe the Phoenix Suns of this year can learn? Hopefully, for some of you that are newer to Suns basketball, whether you're younger or you're older and you're just getting into it, whatever it is, this helps shed the light a little bit on the franchise's history. And I know there are a lot of you out there that are much more, I guess, qualified to speak on this stuff than we are. And I would love to hear from you as well. I always want to learn more about Suns history, especially Suns teams that I was not around to witness live in person. But I promise you, we've done our research. We try to go back and do it as much justice as we could. So hopefully you appreciated this different kind of episode from us here as we gear up for Suns Media Day. We'll be back with a pre-recorded episode tomorrow, previewing Media Day. That's going to be at 3 on this channel. It'll be our last pre-recorded show, and then we'll be back live Wednesday, probably later at night, 4 or 5 o'clock Arizona time is kind of what we're aiming for post Media Day. So you can check that out live back on this channel. We will be back breaking it all down. And of course, you can follow the show at PHNX_Suns. That's on Twitter, and that is on Instagram with live updates during Media Day. Or you could be a part of our diehard Discord. We'll be giving you behind the scenes access to all the nooks and crannies that happen in Suns Media Day, take you behind the scenes and take you on the journey with us. It's still the best place to be a Phoenix Suns and an Arizona sports fan. So scan that code or go to gophnx.com/join. Become a YouTube member today for just $5. You get a special badge next to your name. You stand out in the chat. Plus you get access to special emojis, including some special Suns emojis as well, like our alignment emoji and more. If you want more, we can add them. Just let us know. We do have control over that. We just got to get enough people to join to unlock more emojis to be used. You can follow the Freckled Mamba at Freckled Mamba, aka Old Mangled Toes, aka Juice Man, aka we need you to drop 30 again this week in Men's League after Media Day. You can follow Stephen at StephenPG3. That's Stephen with a PH because he balances us out. You can follow me, historian as always, ERIKRUBY. We'll talk to you pre-recorded tomorrow and live on Wednesday.
We all silly like the mayor.